Good evening, everyone. It's 6 o'clock and welcome to the Newfane Selectboard for June 7th, 2021. Call the meeting to order. We have Mike Fitzpatrick via phone, Shelly Huber, Katy Johnson Aplin, and Ann Golob and myself, Angela Sanborn, and Juanetta Fowling, our administrative assistant, and lots of members of the public. Thank you so much for everyone being here tonight. We really appreciate it. And the first thing is the additions and amendments to the agenda.
So I'd like to make a motion, call a vote to move the mutual aid group off the list, as this is not a select board matter, and I feel that it's taken up too much of our time.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there discussion?
I think there is a discussion to be had about the issue of the proposal for training, and I would like to talk to that issue either now or when it comes up in the on the agenda. So I would like to keep it.
Anyone else have further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Did you hear the, Mike, are you there?
What was it again?
We're voting on Shelley's motion that you seconded it.
All right, so what,
All those in favor say aye
of keeping it or doing what?
of not having it on tonight's agenda.
Oh, all right.
All those opposed?
Opposed?
Aye. The opposed have it, so it will stay on this discussion for old business.
Well, I'd like to make another motion to dismiss and to move this matter to the next town meeting and put it to a question of the voters.
Okay. Is there a second?
To move it to what, the next town meeting?
To town meeting day, yes.
Well, I think we ought to hear it tonight, let's get it over with, we're gonna.
Is there a second to the motion? So we'll keep it, there's no second, so we'll keep it on the agenda for this evening. Any other additions and amendments to the agenda? Okay, let's do the approval of the May 17th regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion
I'm
to?
sorry, I would like to be able to move the issue of the mutual aid to the top of the list.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
And perhaps maybe we just do, we have Jay here, so maybe have Jay do his report. And then follow up with the mutual aid business.
Well, if you do that, I think we could probably get through the minutes and Jay's report pretty quickly
Okay,
and then go right into,
so after Jay's report, we'll do mutual aid?
is that including the scheduled member of the public?
Yes.
Yeah, so that and mutual aid together right after Jay's report. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So now we'll go to the approval of the May 17th regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second that. Any discussion on them? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Moving along to the May 26th special meeting minutes. For road work, is there a motion?
I make a motion to accept the approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
You were absent, Mr.
I'll
Fitzpatrick.
second it.
Thank you, Shelley. All those in favor say aye.
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 I was absent as well.
Yes. Any abstentions, I should say.
That'll be the extension. Oh, that's all right.
Perfect,
Yeah, you
yes.
and I were.
And moving on to June 2 special meeting, is there a motion to accept these also for road work?
Motion to accept.
Second,
I'll second it.
any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions? Shelley, you were absent for that one.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Aye.
All right. Jay, we're ready for your report.
Okay. So the rubber membrane on Monroe Bridge, I put down, it was going down, but it actually is down on one lane today. They picked the worst possible day to do it as far as the heat. I'm surprised we didn't have one of them have to go to the hospital.
Wow.
One lane done. The Depot Road culvert, still waiting on the easement. The sand salt shed, there's nothing new. And there'll be a delay on painting the crosswalks, the speed limits and the stop bars due to a paint shortage.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's just road paint is almost impossible to get right now.
That's weird.
Everything seems delaying everything.
It's just amazing.
The wood prices are astronomical.
Winona and I had a Zoom meeting, and then I walked West Street with Rachel from the Vermont Food Bank for a location for the veggie truck. We couldn't come up with an alternate site, and I think with a few adjustments as it goes along, they may be able to make it work. A sheriff's deputy will be on site to assist, and Rachel's on if you have any questions for her.
Are you still looking at the same route with just some different tweaks to it?
Yeah, still by the church. Actually, Rachel, do you want to kind of explain?
Yeah, thanks for inviting me to this meeting. I'm Rachel from the Vermont Food Bank. I'm the manager of food access programs, and I walked with Jay a bit. I also live in South Newfane, so I'm very familiar with the area. So I talked with the sheriff, Mark Hanson, about traffic plans. We also have about 23 Veggie Van Go events a month, and been organizing this program pre-COVID and during entire year of COVID. So we're very familiar with traffic plans and how to make sure that they work within a town. So the idea is that the cars come off of Route 30 onto Cross Street, are directed down west, where the truck will be in front of the church. We'll have a police officer probably at the intersection between Court Street and west to make sure that the traffic isn't turning in there as opposed to Cross Street. And we've had several conversations with Mark about making his understanding about traffic, and he thinks that's not going to be a problem. Another solution that we can possibly do that we've done at other sites is to turn cars away pre-event and just to tell them to arrive when the event starts so that there's not a lineup of cars. And Jay and I spoke about that. But we're always open to any comments. We plan on sending out some communications to neighbors so they know what's going on. And just to let everyone know that the event itself is an hour long, so it's not a very long event. The amount of cars that come through every 10 minutes will probably be about 10 cars. And once the event is set up, it's very quick. We're also anticipating having more volunteers to help out, and Grace Cottage Hospital is the one that's sponsoring the event. So there's going to be a lot of hands on deck, and we really hope that we can keep it in the area for the community. It's definitely a much needed resource now and into the future as well. The drive-through model will probably be as is with cars until probably this spring. And then the hope is to have it be a walk-up, more like a farmer's market event like we had before, and have that in the green space next to Jail Street.
What day of the week is this on and what time?
So it's going to be the fourth Thursday of every month.
Oh, every month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a monthly event.
And do you know what time?
Yes, I'll give you that in just a second. I think it's from 12 to 1. we're also flexible on that. And that's what I talked about with Jay, obviously with enough notice, but say, for example, the court does open up and you anticipate having a trial that day, and there's concerns about parking cars. We can definitely work with the warehouse in Brattleboro that's providing the food and the driver there and be able to rearrange it for another date.
That's great. My only concern is when the traffic is going north on Route 30 and turning onto Cross Street, and they're back up there with the way people drive coming down that hill. I would not want to see anything bad happen.
Is there any way that we
It's good
can
to know.
stack cars on the sheriff's common
Yeah.
side in rows, like you would waiting for a ferry?
Right.
That would be a conversation to have with.
I would think they would load them up over there. And then it's over.
Right, and then as need be, the
Yeah.
sheriff directs people to the next row or whatever.
Or if the sheriff's cars have to get out quick.
Oh, that's on, not on the circle, on the green where cars park during the Heritage Festival, but in like,
Do you
lines.
believe those two parcels of land you have to get permission from the courthouse to use?
Yes,
So that would be
Okay.
another person or another group you need to speak with is,
but even if they did one row of cars over Yale Street.
so there's a couple more things to look into.
that's just a thought.
Yeah, I have some comments about that, those two comments, because we have talked about it. So one thing to consider is winter. We don't want to have cars on green space in the winter time because of ice. Not everyone has snow tires. So really staying on pavement is really important to not get cars stuck. The other bit is, again, it does sound like a lot, but the amount of cars that come through is really only 10 cars every 10 minutes around. And most of the traffic comes at the beginning of the event. But if we were to turn cars away pre-event, they tend to trickle in. So it's not going to be a congestion with many cars at once. So if we're able to direct it, I do hear what you said about Cross Street, and the idea might be to have actually the police officer there to direct, and then have signage and volunteers to signal the cars up to Cross Street to make sure that they don't go on to West or Court in the opposite direction.
Shelley?
So I've seen it up in Townsend and they've been parked all the way down Route 30. And
Yes, and
that's a very narrow road up there.
yes, and the reason for that, we don't have a police officer. So a police officer changes everything, especially with starting early too, by turning cars away. We've been able to, Springfield actually has an event that's almost 3 times the size. They have over 500 families at the event. We have under 200 for the Townsend event. And with a police officer turning away traffic, we've been able to keep it in that small area after we had a concern prior to that with traffic. So that happened about 6 months ago, and since then we'll be able to keep it at the site. So having the police officer there and being able to direct traffic and turning cars away, we've been able to maintain sites events during COVID.
That's a good idea.
That would be our only concern, I think.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I think it's a great opportunity to have you guys in Newfane. Okay, number 6.
Okay. So the guardrail work will be going on later this week. Paving going on this week also on Dover Road and then on Monroe Bridge. And it looks like we have enough money in the sign and traffic safety budget to order another solar radar sign that we can use on Route 30 if you want to do that. We've got plans to put 2 in the Newfane Village on Route 30. So it looks like we've got enough to get 1 more before the end of June. And then maybe next year we'll be able to get another one.
Excellent.
Is that something you want to pursue?
I'll make a motion and Jacob will get that.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I,
Ayes have it.
And the only other thing is we have an access permit for Wiswall Hill.
It is for Josh and Emily Houle at 289 Wiswall Hill Road. They would constructed new access for residential for 500 to 1,000 feet. And work in the right of way is to dismantle a section of their stone wall.
So Christopher and I both went up and looked at it. They don't need a culvert, but they do need to go in 20 feet level with the road before they go up. Other than that, we didn't see any problems.
Okay,
I make a motion to approve it as according to James and their recommendation.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
That's all.
Jay, you'll be in touch with the Houle.
Yes.
Thank you. Is everyone okay if I sign the?
Yes.
Is there a motion to accept the road foreman and commissioners report?
I'll make a motion.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So moving to scheduled members of the public to include the West River Valley Mutual Aid Group. Shelley,
Yes.
I'm gonna let you open that up.
Okay, so I'd like to introduce a special guest tonight. Her name is Alice Flanders, and I wanted to introduce her. She's a former Navy military officer with nearly 15 years of active duty and 8 in the Naval Reserves. And her subspecialty is space systems operations, and she served on the Navy staff at the Pentagon, where she successfully managed a $1 billion budget, as well as served as a contract technical manager for reentry assets at the Defense Nuclear Agency. All of this has been done as a woman of color who came through schooling in the newly integrated South. And she started as a physics major, turned mathematics major, and even won opportunities to work at the MIT Lincoln Laboratory. She was awarded 2 scholarships to study at a prestigious European university in France. And her personal background story demonstrates that a great nation of ours that we live in, while not perfect, it does allow for personal achievement of the individuals who will not easily accept the mindset of failure. And she says, who could have guessed that a young Black girl reared in the Lower Ninth Ward in New Orleans could face her challenges and with hard work and determination convert those very challenges one by one into achievements. So I welcome Alice Flanders.
Hi, Alice.
Welcome. Oh, you're on mute.
Oh,
Still on mute.
yep. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, thanks.
You're still on mute?
Thank you.
Sound? No sound.
How's this?
Hey.
Hello.
Welcome. Nice to have you.
Okay, I'm so happy to be here. And if you really wanted to know anything more about my background, I did put an op-ed in the Vermont Daily, which is a online news source, and you can see anything that I've had to say. I don't have anything new to say other than this. I'm here in Vermont, way back at the bicentennial year, 1976. I was a physics major. I just finished my first year of physics. I was selected to work at MIT Lincoln Lab. It's a very heady thing. I met the person who became my husband there. He's from Vermont. Turns out his father before him was a Vermonter. His grandfather before him was Senator Ralph Flanders of Vermont. His great-grandfather before him was Governor James Harkness of Vermont. And they're all in Vermont. It took 5 years for me to be convinced to marry him. But you know, I've come to respect this great state and the wonderful heart of the people here in Vermont. If you just subtract 1976 from 2021, you'll see that's many years that I've been associated with the state. I'm not a newcomer here, but I am concerned about things that are going on, not just in Vermont, but in the nation in general. I'm not going to address the general nation issues. I'm going to address Vermont. Vermont has a beautiful and deep history of supporting freedom. In fact, slavery has never been the law of the land here in Vermont. From the inception of the state back in 1777, if you look at the Vermont Constitution, the universal suffrage and was the law of the land, as was no slavery. That's unique to this state. I'm going to get to the point because you don't want to hear me talking all night long. You've seen my background. I was a physics major. My father was not a physics major. I turned to math. I've done a lot of academic things, and this in a newly integrated South. I want our kids, all of our kids, not just here in Vermont, but everywhere, but let's talk to Vermont. I want them all to be confident that equal opportunity is the law of the land. I do not support equity. Let me tell you why. And I'm going to explain it to you in a way that I know you can take it to heart. It takes many hours to develop proficiency. For example, Yo-Yo Ma, who is a world-renowned cellist. He's about my age. And I remember when he first came on the scene, Yo-Yo Ma was critiqued as being very stilted and stiff. He's a Chinese, they don't flow. And Yo-Yo Ma today is well known, especially in, Memoirs of a Geisha. He played the cello part that represented the female character, the main character in the story. He had to put in, I'm sure, 5 to 6 hours every day after school, 5 days a week to gain that proficiency. Let's go to someone who plays basketball. I don't name someone who plays basketball.
LeVar is all I can think of.
What?
Shaquille O'Neal.
Shaquille O'Neal. I don't know. Thank you so much for rescuing me because I don't know basketball, but I do know this. Little Shaquille was in high school and he's practicing every day after school. And I know he probably had to 5 or 6 hours a day shooting those hoops, as my grandkids say, nothing but net. See, I got that terminology, even if I don't know the game, but nothing but net. That means you hit the net and the ball goes in. And for him to have that level of proficiency, he had to put in 5 to 6 hours of practice every day, at least 5 or 6 days a week. Look at anyone you get, look at me. In order to be proficient in math when I was coming through high school, this is where the rubber meets the road for all of our kids, black, white, grizzly, gray. I came in and I was tracked in the A track at this private all-girls school right after integration. They'd never seen somebody like me in their A track. Okay, but my IQ score and my test scores put me there. But partial credit was never going to work in my favor, ever. So I had to have the answer completely right. Do you know, in order to get the answer completely right, what it took? It took 5 to 6 hours a day after school, doing all the problems in the book, in the back of the book, the star problems, the double star problems, all of them, so that if the teacher asked, who knows how to do such and such a problem, I could raise my hand to say, and they'd stop calling on me. But in my sophomore year, in that school that had never seen anybody like me, do you know, I became the captain of the junior math team. This was at an all-girls school and we played boys and girls and we won. In my junior year, I became captain of the senior math team. And there are other academic things that I did as well, because success is addictive. I want our kids, whatever their color, to be confident that if they put in the effort, they will get the results. the thing I'm concerned about with this anti-bias training, look, there will always be people who have their biases, but equal opportunity is the law of the land. If that person can perform, those results speak for themselves. I've got a question for any one of you. When you go, not you, but when someone you love gets to go to the hospital and is on the operating table, are you going to wonder whether or not the person who has the mask on and is the surgeon, that they know what's going on inside that body? If we make it the separate but equal and whatever all these other woke things are, how can you ever have that confidence? I want all of our kids to have a level of confidence in their ability to perform, but I'm not going to let them have it at no price, because everything that's worth achieving is worth fighting for. And when you get those kids to fight, not physically fight, you know what I'm talking about, when you get them to strive, compete for their grade, their success will lead to more success. I wish I could tell you everything that's gone on in my background. I've done so many wonderful things that many people didn't do, not because they couldn't, but because I'm going to tell you, it takes a lot to do the kinds of things I did. How many people would stay up as a high school student 5 or 6 hours every night, and sometimes till 2 or 3 in the morning? Not every night, but sometimes I was up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. No, I didn't watch a lot of television. No, I wasn't out going to a lot of parties, but I was driven to another goal because that was my task in life at the time. I'm a grandmother. I have 4 grandsons. I would hope to encourage them to strive to be their very best. Hang on one second, just a second. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Now look, people, look, I'm looking at you. My heart reaches out to you. But can I show you my family? Our daughter married a Brit. And so our grandkids have dual citizenship. We have 2 redheads and 2 who are dark haired. Here they are. Can you see them? Can you see them?
Yes, yes.
What color would you say these people are? I'm going to tell you. What race are they? They're the human race. I want us, you want to know something? I really could care less. The bottom line is I care about my family. The bottom line is I care about my community. The bottom line is I care about our state. We cannot change the whole world in one fell swoop. We can only change where we are and stay on the good track. We have to rescue our kids. And let me be very honest. Before COVID came in, because right now COVID is a good cover. I was a military officer, and you're not gonna, BS is called bologna sausage. You know what they put into bologna sausage? Kneecaps, nose, ears, all kinds of stuff goes into the bologna sausage. And that's what BS is. I'm gonna tell you that before COVID hit, and you can help me out. You, the selectman, you there, you can help me out better than I can help myself. Before COVID hit, as I was looking at some data, not all, but I'm willing to do the analysis, look at the academic scores of our fair state of Vermont. And the academic scores were going down, down, down compared to the national average. Now, of course, COVID is a good cover. They'll say, well, because we were locked down and all of that, our scores went down. But you want to know something? What happened in the years before that? Why were our scores going down? We have not been, and I'm not ragging on the school system, but they're going at the wrong thing. We have to make our kids internationally competitive. We have to. This is our state. This is our future. And okay, you tell me that cover is a good cover for why the grades have gone down in the last couple of years, but what explains what happened before? I want to help our kids. I want you to help our kids become proficient in reading, writing, arithmetic, and civics, if you will, so that they are internationally competitive. I don't support the woke concept of the critical race theory discussion. Which critical race am I supposed to sign up to? Can we all be humans and sign up for that race? And if we are competent, the competence speaks for itself. There's nothing like being in the South at a predominantly white school where nobody expected you could do it. And then they say, yeah, she can do it. And then you get to be the captain of the junior math team as a sophomore and the captain of the senior math team as a junior. What about my spacecraft design that I was taking in graduate school? There is no African-American orbitology. There is no Black, mechanics. It's just the math and the science. Can we help our kids to be confident in themselves and internationally competent? If anybody has any question, and I'm not sure if I addressed everything, all I could say is about the anti-bias. When people realize that you have a competent individual who's a team member right there willing to work, they'd be stupid. I hate to use that term. That's a bad, the S word. My grandmother would have been very upset by using that term, stupid, but they would be stupid to turn someone away who's competent because of the color of their skin, especially if they could beat the other team. I want us all to hang together or stick together as a team. Forget all this newspeak, anti-bias. There will always be people we'll leave them in the dust. There will be those who have their biases, but we'll let competence speak for itself. Does anybody understand what I've tried to say?
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
If you have any questions, I would be very happy to address any of them. I've said so much in writing before that I think what I really wanted to do, and I do hope you accept my apology, I just wanted to speak from my heart because I believe that the message from a heart will reach a heart. I hope you can feel that it came out of my heart, but it also came with a prepared mind.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now does anybody from West River Valley Mutual Aid, Ann, I know you wanted to speak.
If I could go next, I'd appreciate it, because I would like to put a suggestion on the table. With all due respect to Ms. Flanders and the thoughts that she expressed, I see the training that has been proposed in a different light. And I see it as a way to add to people's knowledge and information about what goes on in our country, what people do, and as a way to increase people's awareness so that they can be more compassionate and more thoughtful and more caring. I personally have taken many such trainings. They are the most common things in the corporate and not-for-profit worlds where I have worked. I have definitely found that some of the courses I took were better than others, but all of them had value. Even since the time I've taken these courses, they have become even more common across our country. And just as I was talking to people in the community over the last 2 weeks, I was surprised actually at how many people told me they had taken these classes and how common they were, whether they work for the post office or commercial company or a not-for-profit or whoever. It has become ubiquitous throughout the working world. I think that there was one issue that people got very stuck on, which is whether or not this was something that could be mandated. We have said this before, but let me say it again as clearly as I know how. Vermont state law, as it was explained to us by VLCT, does not give a town the authority to mandate such training to their employees. But we can strongly suggest and encourage it. And I personally would like to recommend that we do so. Recognizing that the quality of programs varies tremendously and that the focus of different courses varies, I was interested in the fact that VLCT is offering a course that was developed by the National League of Cities. It is a 3-part online diversity, equity, and inclusion training that is available to all VLCT members. They described the course as providing a training program aimed at eliminating racial disparities, healing racial divisions, and building more equitable communities. The course will be taught in 3 2-hour sessions on June 21st, June 28th, and July 14th. I have signed up to take it, and I strongly urge all town employees, select board members, and commissioners to take a look at their offering and decide if they would like to do so as well. At the first select board meeting after the July 14th session, I would like to suggest that we schedule a discussion of the course and evaluate if this course meets our needs. And if it does, I would recommend making an official proposal, urging town employees, et cetera, to sign up. If it doesn't meet our needs, I would recommend that we evaluate other opportunities. Since this is a course that is developed specifically for government people working in government functions, I think there is a high probability that the information that they will be relaying will be very valuable to us in our roles here in the town, whatever role someone has, whether it's a commissioner, select board member, or an employee. As a final comment, I would like to request that all select board members in particular consider signing up for the course. I know not everyone agrees that this is needed, and some feel that it may not be relevant to them personally. But in this case, we are evaluating it for the town employees. And as such, I personally feel strongly that the opinion of all select board members is important in that evaluation. We come from different backgrounds and experiences. A good course should talk to all of us and be respectful of all of our differences. We as a select board have many different points of view. I strongly believe that is a good thing. I applaud our differences and the fact that we can work together productively and in a collegial manner to address the issues in the town that we all care about. This is one more example where everyone's input would be a strong positive toward doing the best we can for our town. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Ms. Flanders?
I would like to know if this training is a solution in search of a problem. Has the town identified a problem in your town that needs that solution?
It is, in my opinion, a form of training that is useful to anyone who lives in this country, given the history in this country. We all come from different places and different experiences. It is a way of sharing knowledge, information, and background that I think can be useful to anybody and can help deepen anybody's understanding of working with people from all different backgrounds.
Well, my problem is,
I'm sorry. I would just like to say as a select board member that I would like to make sure, I don't want this to become a debate between you and I. I really would like to encourage others to join the conversation.
Absolutely. Anyone who would like to speak, raise your hand and we'll call on you. Apple, thank you for being here.
Thank you. So I'm Apple Gifford, and I am a resident of Newfane. I'm also a justice of the peace in Newfane, and I am a new business owner in Newfane. And I am here on behalf of West River Valley Mutual Aid. And last time the select board met, you asked us to gather some information for you, and which we've done. So I'm going to take a moment to read what we collected, the info that we collected, so that I think you all have the letter, maybe even in front of you, but so the whole group can hear what we gathered. We also, as you'll hear, some of what we have to say echoes what was just shared by Anne. So here we go. Dear Select Board, we write to follow up on your request at the May 17th Select Board meeting that we submit materials about anti-racism, anti-bias, and/or diversity, equity, and inclusion training options, and provide information about towns and municipalities that have engaged in anti-racism training and work. Training opportunities. After talking to Newfane neighbors, friends, and colleagues, and reaching out via the West River Valley Mutual Aid's email lists, we have started to compile a list of offerings. We would like to highlight in particular 2 training opportunities. The first, offered by Dr. Mary Gannon and Dr. Dottie Morris, who are Vermont and New Hampshire residents familiar with communities and conditions in Southern Vermont. Both are experienced in working with small towns like ours. They have been recommended by Newfane residents, the Putney town manager, and the Brattleboro town manager. Dr. Gannon has said that they can be flexible with town government clients about needs, timing, and budget, which would allow for a training customized for Newfane's needs. Based on what we have learned thus far, we strongly recommend that the Newfane Select Board invite Dr. Gannon to speak with you to discuss their services and have them submit a proposal that would be appropriate for Newfane. The second option that you've just heard about is from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns. They have formed an equity committee in conjunction with the Social Equity Caucus in the State House and have begun to offer free trainings for town officials. These trainings apply to anyone who is an employee of the town or who volunteers their time for the town in an official capacity. We believe these will be a great complement to a more in-depth training, such as those offered by Dr. Gannon and Dr. Morris. That could be offered to town employees, residents, and people who work in Newfane. Here is a link. So in the letter, there's a link to their first training. You also asked us to find out information about different parts of government that are engaging in this work throughout Vermont. So diversity, equity, and inclusion work is happening in Vermont from small town government to the state level. Locally, Brattleboro and Putney have taken the lead. Brattleboro town manager Peter Elwell has expressed interest in talking with the Newfane Select Board about the work they have been doing since 2017. In Newfane, the Planning Commission has begun working on equity. Ken Esty will speak about that with you directly. We have reached out to Karen Horn at VLCT to see if there was a list of all governmental bodies in Vermont which were engaging in diversity, equity, and inclusion work. While the VLCT doesn't have such a list, she pointed us to a number of resources. She will be in touch with us again, and we will pass on any more information that is shared. While the following is not an extensive list of what's happening in Vermont government, here is what we discovered. Fiona Creed Chevalier has been in contact with Ms. Horn and can speak with you on details related to their statewide efforts. Number 1, Racial Equity Director in Vermont Racial Equity Advisory Panel. The panel was created as a result of Act 9, which Governor Scott signed into law in 2018. On the panel's website, it states that the panel works with the Executive Director of Racial Equity to implement reforms, advise the Executive Director to ensure ongoing compliance with the purpose of the legislation, advise the Governor on strategies for remediating systemic racial disparities in statewide systems of government, and report progress to the legislature. Governor Scott appointed Susanna Davis as Vermont's first Director of Racial Equity in 2019. Ms. Davis commented at last month's Southern Vermont Economic Summit that there is great demand from municipalities around the state for information about how to undertake anti-racism and anti-bias work. We have reached out to the Vermont Racial Equity Advisory Panel in Ms. Davis's office and expect to receive recommendations from them. We will forward these as soon as we receive them, or can provide contact information if you prefer to handle this directly. VLCT has an equity committee, which is beginning to delve into the work of applying an equity lens to local government work. Part of the purpose of the committee is to recommend and develop tools that towns can use in the discussions around equity, social justice, and belonging. We've provided a link to their resources page, which includes minutes of their meeting. Statewide, 10 municipalities have signed on to a declaration of inclusion. They are Brandon, Fairfax, Franklin, Mendon, Milton, Moortown, Pittsford, Rutland City, Waterbury, Woodstock Town, and Woodstock Village. Locally, Brattleboro is beginning the process of adopting the declaration. The following 9 municipalities have equity committees or an equity position: Barry, Brattleboro, Burlington, Essex, Hartford, Harwick, Montpelier, Middlebury, and Winooski. And they have some have an equity committee, some have an equity director, some have a committee on, one is called the Social and Economic Advisory Committee. As you can see, all across Vermont, government is stepping up to include equity work as a part of its operations. It is exciting to see so many towns working on making their communities even more welcome. We believe that Newfane has a wonderful opportunity to tap into the work already been done in the state to help make our community as welcoming and inviting as possible. In addition to government, here is some information about businesses, nonprofits, and schools that are engaged in diversity, equity, and inclusion work. In addition to the list of towns and cities, institutions, and employers in Vermont that are recognizing the need for training and conversations about inclusion, equity, and diversity are growing by the day. Locally, this includes efforts by Kindle Farm and the Wyndham Central School District, the Wyndham Central SU School District and Wyndham Southeast SU School District. Many large employers in Windham County and business organizations such as Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation, Brattleboro Memorial Hospitals are engaged in this work. While we know that some Newfane residents have misunderstood our request as an accusation that you or others are racist, this really isn't true. Rather, this work is a continuation of the incredible community outpouring of unity in the face of racist graffiti last summer. It is an acknowledgement that we all wish to learn and grow, and especially to avoid accidentally making mistakes, especially when it comes to town affairs and rulemaking that make anyone in our community feel safe or unwelcome. Likewise, the assertion that the widespread adoption of an anti-bias training in municipalities, school districts, libraries, and many other public and private entities across the state is political is an error. These efforts are explicitly non-political and are aimed directly at supporting community cohesion and growth. There is nothing political about wanting to grow as a community to ensure that all of our neighbors feel welcome in town offices and public spaces, and that the rulemaking that guides our town into this new era will be informed by an understanding of the diverse experiences of our community. Local support for our effort is growing. We have included an updated list of signatures for our initial letter. At the time of this submission, there were 191 signatures. Today, by right now, there are 196 signatures. At the time of submission, 128 of them were Newfane residents. Currently, 134 of the signees are Newfane residents. There is so much to be excited about in our community as we bounce back from the pandemic, together and stronger than ever, and look together toward a bright future for Newfane. This is one step among many to make sure that Newfane continues to be inclusive, caring, and welcoming, and to let the world know that Newfane is open for business and everybody is welcome. For now, we hope you will commit to learning together and to include interested town residents in this process. We respectfully ask that you vote at your June 7 meeting to adopt a voluntary anti-bias training that can be offered to town officials, employees, and volunteers, and we hope be made available to any interested Newfane residents too. We strongly recommend that select board members undertake the VLCT offerings and request that you pass a motion on June 7th agreeing to participate in the VLCT offerings or encouraging all members to do so in the strongest terms, as well as offering the VLCT training to town officials, employees, and volunteers. and to contact Doctors Gannon and Morris regarding exploring the possibility of developing a Newfane specific training. Thank you for your leadership, and the letter is signed the West River Valley Mutual Aid Anti-Racism Working Group. And now I am going to hand off to Ken Esty, who I believe is there with you in person. He is going to follow up.
Thank you for presenting, Ethel. Hi, Ken. Good evening.
Good evening. So my name is Ken Esty, and I'm the chair of the Planning Commission for the town of Newfane. And this is my first public address with a mask, so it's quite exciting. So at the May 13th Planning Commission meeting, we voted unanimously to pass the following motion. The motion reads as follows: the town of Newfane Planning Commission supports anti-bias and diversity training for its commissioners. My colleague on the commission, Lynn Forrest, reported this to you at the last select board meeting. Speaking now as a resident of Newfane, but informed by my work as a planning commissioner, I believe that anti-bias and diversity training is a fundamental best practice in town planning activity. In fact, the Vermont Council on Rural Development, a partner of ours in planning commission work, recently published a working document called the Vermont Proposition. They wanted that document to spur discussion at their summit on the future of Vermont that occurred on May 26th and May 27th. This is a product of hundreds of interviews, written contributions from more than 1,000 individuals, and inputs from local, regional, and statewide COVID recovery meetings, as well as the work of tens of thousands of people over the history of the Vermont Council on Rural Development. The Vermont Proposition is intended to spur a common vision for volunteers, voters, investors, consumers, and donors to support enterprises and initiatives to foster the best possible work and future for Vermont. The nonpartisan Partnership for the Future of Vermont will help in this effort as well. I found it deeply interesting to read that one of the key elements of the document stated that Vermont must combat racism, celebrate diversity, and welcome new Vermonters of color. Advancing a culture of inclusiveness and, yes, equity, they argue, and I agree, is a foundation for the renewal of our economies and our communities, and is essential for Newfane to realize its full potential. So your commitment as a select board to anti-bias and diversity training would be very helpful to the Planning Commission as we contemplate our future and our sense of direction as a town. Your own statement, your very own statement, passed on September 21st, 2020 states, we are a community of diverse backgrounds and opinions, and we draw strength from it. Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and feel safe in our beautiful town. That is your statement, and I completely agree, and I thank you for stating it and featuring it so prominently on our website, and for keeping it there. So when we go to the website of the town of Newfane, there it is. However, our town's official commitment to anti-bias and diversity training would be the embodiment. It would be the realization of that commitment that's on our website. All of you should know that I think the world of our local town plan that we adopted just 3 years ago this summer. And Angela, you were part of that effort, and you remember it well.
Yeah.
It was laborious, but well worth it. On page 60 of our town plan, we uphold, and this is not the Planning Commission town plan, but it's the town of Newfane's town plan. And on page 60 of that town plan, we uphold the value of the common good. And we speak to how violating the common good contradicts human dignity. And when there is a contradiction of human dignity, some people are not able to participate in their community and contribute to it. On the other hand, anti-bias and diversity training is a key building block to uphold our town plan and our collective commitment to the common good and the dignity of all. This is a future that the town of Newfane can affirm, embrace, and celebrate. And I say, let us be that beacon. Let us be that hope. Let us affirm tonight and in this place the future that we know Newfane can be and the future that we know Newfane can embody and live in. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Ken.
I'd like to make a comment. What is so wrong about Newfane?
It's not what's wrong with Newfane, it's who we can be in addition to who we are right
Who
now.
are we now that it's so terrible that we have to change our being who we are?
An anti-bias and diversity training enhances and builds on who we
Who
are.
says that? You. Not everyone.
Well, I did say I was speaking for myself.
Yes.
Well, that's just like everybody else.
But we have to think about everybody in this community. Not just those that believe in anti-bias training, diversity, but those who believe in themselves and believe in taking care of their families, taking care of their neighbors.
What you're not
take care
saying
of
is
other
people who believe in racism.
Excuse me.
Excuse me, can we all be respectful and use
You're
respectful,
asking for the town to consider something that is universal for everyone to live under. We don't need that here in this town of Newfane. Everyone has their own principles, their own ability to discern who they are
Yeah, I believe that Fiona.
and how they live their lives. So you got 134 people. What is that? 10% of the population of the town of Newfane. We have 1,400 people in our town. And you speak on behalf of all of us? No.
we need to be respectful when talking with each other and wait until somebody's done before interrupting. I will call on folks as, no, it's fine. I'm just saying, everybody, board members and the public all need to speak to each other respectfully, nicely, and wait their turn to speak, and this will go so much smoother. I believe you were next. I'm not sure what your name is.
Sure, I'm happy to speak. I'm Keith Diefenbach.
Okay, nice to meet you. I've seen you.
First time here in person,
Yes.
you may recognize my voice from, I believe, about 2 meetings ago.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm happy to support West River Valley Mutual Aid in their initiative to encourage anti-bias training, but I'm going to speak as myself, as a new resident of Newfane, having moved here in the fall. That I'll certainly echo what Ken said, that this initiative is not about anything being wrong with Newfane or with Vermont or with anyone, but with the ongoing work that needs to be done in any community to create an increasingly welcome atmosphere for people of all backgrounds. And I do want to address Ms. Huber in your statement that when you speak about people who don't believe in anti-bias training, the dog whistle underneath that is people who believe in racism.
That's bullshit.
Excuse
me, everyone,
No, don't you dare call me a racist.
Excuse me, Tom, Shelly, please, you'll have your time to speak back, but Keith's.
Excuse me, but I won't.
And I'm certainly not saying that. Sir, I didn't call you anything, and no, I did not, and I have no doubt.
Let's hear the rest of the statement, and then
Of
we'll
course.
have your opportunity to speak next, Tom.
I'm sure we all share the goal to make, as I alluded, to make Newfane an increasingly inclusive community for everyone, including people of marginalized identities. When you, again, I want to address the underlying sort of the unspoken statement there. I'm sure to say that there's something wrong is not accurate in terms of characterizing anyone as an individual or as the town as a whole, but there have been and continue to be racist incidents in the town that speak to an underlying lack of awareness of the importance of, and of what's required to make the community truly inclusive. And it would be ignorant to say that the perpetrators of those events, perhaps saying that they believe in racism is too strong of a phrase, and I apologize if that's offensive to, if anyone is taking that personally. I would encourage you to look inside yourselves about, why do you think that applies to you if you're taking it so personally? But there's certainly a need for this work everywhere, but the fact that there's such a resistance to the work itself is in itself evidence of the importance of the work. And as a person who, as I said, moved here recently and is a person with various intersecting marginalized identities, in terms of my future, looking at whether this is a town that I want to stay in, where I can stay in and be safe and thrive, these initiatives, as Ken stated, what's said on the website, and continuing efforts to create education around diversity, equity, and inclusion are things that I look for as an individual when I look at a place that I'm going to consider settling. And I would encourage you to keep that in mind for the future of the town as a whole, and to what people look for when they move here or when they consider, what they want in a place that they want to live. And I really thank you for considering the proposal.
Thank you so much, Keith. We're going to go to Tom and then Fiona. Okay.
My name is Tom Salmons. I live in Newfane. My family's been here since World War I. Most of the people I know will give you the shirt off their back, the food out of their refrigerator. They will give the sweat of their brow to help their neighbor, whether it's asked for or if they see a need. This is a subject that is very political throughout the country. I believe that first, this should be put on the ballot, not by the voted on by the select board, not at the town meeting where one group has a larger voice than the other group that happens to show up that day for whatever reason. Put it on the ballot. Each person gets the vote. Then you'll know the true feeling of the town, not 10%. And at last count, multiple people on the list that was presented aren't members of Newfane. I served in the United States military. I worked with, I fought with, I loved, I cried over men of color, all different colors. They worked together as a cohesive unit because they loved each other and they wanted to. They had the compassion of humanity. This passive aggressive suggestion that because we're not for your idea that we're racist, I find highly offensive. And I'm going to take my mask off. I've had my shots. So people can see who I am. I'm not going to hide behind the mask.
If this person is not going to take the safety precautions that are
I have
necessary.
had
I'm
my
asking
shot.
that we leave our masks on because we
Thank
are
you.
not clear on the BCG.
I'm not going to hide behind my mask. I want people to know who I am, know my name, where I live. This is a very multiple issue. The things that were painted on the road to begin with, one, were against the law. The only thing that is allowed to be painted on a road surface are traffic control signs. Anything else is graffiti. It is in violation of state law. So those people, first off, were in violation. Not to say the people who responded weren't guilty of the same thing. The employees that took it off the road, they were doing their job. And they were persecuted for it. This anti-bias training, I've seen it in other places. It tends to divide. It doesn't bring people together. When people are told that they have to, we fought against England and a lot of other countries. That flag has flown over every battle that this country has fought. And it wasn't for gain of property, gain of treasure, gain of bodies. It was to free the oppressed. That means anyone, anyone. I have friends who are, I don't know what the correct PC term is, who are gay, who are gender non-specific, black, yellow, green. I've employed these people. I've worked side by side with them. I've fought with them. Some of the bravest people I know were these people. We need to put this on the ballot and let the public decide. Make sure, I will make sure that everybody in this town knows it's on the ballot. This is the true temper of the public, what they want, not what the media says, not what the select board says, not what individuals who have gotten together in a group. Candace Owens said it very well. I find this offensive. This young lady, I've forgotten her name, I'm sorry. I'm a little passionate right now. Served in the military. She came out of the 9th Ward of New Orleans. That's where Katrina did its most damage. It's a testament of how great our country is, that people can rise up by their bootstraps, by their own sweat of their brow. Now, if I offend anybody, I apologize. I don't mean to, but I am very passionate about this. This is an issue for the entire town, not the 5 individuals, 6 individuals that are sitting here now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tom.
May I make a clarification? I just want to say one time again, there is nothing that is being discussed that is being asked to be mandatory. There is nothing that anyone has ever asked that says all residents should partake in this. There is nothing that says the town employees have to take this. This is being offered as, the suggestion is being made to offer this as an additional resource for those who want to partake in it. And I just want to be clear that everyone understands that point.
Just final. The suggestion that everyone take it, everyone in the town take it, it leads to a
No one's making that point.
threat.
It's a suggestion to make these trainings available to everyone. It's not a mandatory.
This organization has the vehicle to put it forward, just like the other aid programs, to help the public if the public wants it. It should not be anything that the town spends $1 on. We're already wasting time right here hearing this subject.
But everybody does deserve the right to speak, and we are here and we should listen to our people in our town. Yes, Fiona, thank you.
Hi, my name is Fiona Creed Chevalier. I live in Williamsville. First, Anne, thank you so much for signing up to take the training. I think that's really wonderful. And your proposal, I really appreciate that. I was actually, my husband and I were actually the people that took off the graffiti from what was on Newfane. The government, the town folks didn't do it. They couldn't do it because it was a state road. So I just want to.
Farther up on the
Okay,
bridge.
I just want to let you know that it was private individuals who were being illegal and like telling people to move around to take that out of the town. So I just want to clarify that.
Yep.
So I was in conversation with Karen Horn from the VLCT email back and forth, and she gave me some small pieces of information, and she would be giving us more later. And she did echo what you were saying, Anne, is that the role of the town government is to make available and to inform the rest of the folks that either work for or who volunteer for the town that these trainings are available, and that they are a series of 3 trainings. Peter Elwell, who is I also had the pleasure of talking with Peter Elwell, and he is the town manager for Brattleboro. And they've been working on this, they've been doing equity work since 2017. And he'd be happy to come and speak to you guys, but he has to be invited. So he needs to be, in order to speak in a professional capacity, he has to be invited by the select board. So if you'd like to come, if you'd like to invite him to be a guest as well, so that he can speak to what they've been doing, and what he is also the vice president of the board of the LCT, so he can also speak as to what the board is doing with an equity committee. And you pretty much talked about what I was going to talk about with the LCT. But I want to address that the idea of working on diversity, equity, and inclusion is not saying that we're bad. It's saying that we have things to learn, and we always have things to learn. I'm also an educator, so I get passionate about learning, right? But every organization, every government is always training their employees. We're always training to become better at what we do, to serve, so that we can serve in a better way in whatever professional capacity you're working on. As a teacher, I have to take a certain number of hours of training every year in order to keep my professional license, right? And as people who are involved in the town government, you guys give your blood, sweat, and tears, and you don't get compensated financially in the way that you should to do what you do. And I really appreciate all that you give to our town and the time that you offer our town. And I know that asking you to take a training that you're also not getting paid for is asking you to volunteer more of your time. And so I appreciate you considering that offer. But I think it's always important for us to be willing to learn something new and to take trainings. And this is a trainings on diversity, equity, and inclusion is something that our governor has said that's important to do. And so I think it is important that we understand that this is the role, this is government's role to make sure that we are ensuring that our community is being treated the fairest that it can be. And the equity and diversity trainings are voluntary. I want to be really clear about that. But I think it's important that we are willing to learn and to grow.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So I take offense to the fact that the government needs to take care of somebody. We are responsible individuals that need to take care of our own selves and have principles, have morals, have the wherewithal to treat others decently. And I was raised by a single mother, okay, without any welfare. We didn't have a whole lot, but what I'm trying to say to you is that it's the family that's responsible. It's not this community that's responsible to teach others. It's your family responsibility, the way you are raised.
I don't understand.
And that's my point.
Can I ask?
1 second.
Sure. I don't understand.
Katie?
I can only speak from my own experience. I was raised in this town. I went to our schools. I joined the military and experienced the greatest culture shock of my life upon moving across the country and living in San Diego and being surrounded by people from all over the world for the first time in my life. I ate it up. I had to. I loved it. I learned as much as I could about as many people as I could. But I was completely unprepared coming from Newfane, Vermont as a child. Not for a lack of the opportunity to travel, because I did a lot, thanks to my father. But I was still unprepared to live side by side with people who did not have the same New England experience. So I will continue to learn because it's constantly evolving. And I hope that all of you can look inside of yourselves and see that learning is not a negative here. If we want to invite people to our town, we have to be welcoming to learn about things that make us uncomfortable, about beautiful celebrations and traditions that other people hold. And I think that that is just a continuing part of it. And I don't see, I will be taking this training and I will be seeing if it's appropriate for everyone else, whoever else wants to take it. And
Well, I won't be taking it. I'll make that point.
Well, as we said, it's not mandatory, it's a suggestion.
Exactly.
And it's been
And I
sent
think
out
I'm
to all of
spending
us
way
from
too much time on this
VLCT.
at this point.
It's been sent out to all of us from VLCT that these trainings are available.
it's a series of 3.
And I will be attending them as well.
Yeah.
And
Because like you, I did move from Newfane, Vermont at 17 years old to the heart of Memphis, Tennessee. And it was culture shock.
Complete.
Yeah.
There's no, that you can learn as much as you want, but until you practice, you have no sustenance. It doesn't stay, just like learning a language, just like learning an instrument.
that has happened for generations upon
I
generations.
know, but it's our own personal experiences, so.
Right. So I guess it's available to those, and I would suggest that the mutual aid group perform whatever that training is or orchestrate it, but it's not our responsibility as the select board.
And I know Fiona had a response to what you were saying before.
I was just confused at why you are, I don't understand the comment that you made after I spoke. You were saying that it's people's responsibility to take care of, I didn't understand your comment.
Yeah, the point is that your family should have the responsibility of raising you, not the community, in the sense of giving you rights and wrongs, etc. So the family is the one that teaches you. And there's times when you live in a very small town and you leave, but that's your prerogative to leave and venture out into the world. Everyone has. And there's downfalls, there's pitfalls to it, there's excitement to it, you know, but each individual has their own responsibility in our society.
Exactly, why this training is not a mandatory training, it's on your own.
I don't want to be condemned because I'm not going to take the training, and I've already said it publicly, that I have had numerous friends from all over this world.
You've made that clear, Shelly.
Color.
Thank you.
Okay, we have some more people that would like to speak. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I would like to get this so we can move on to the business of the town. So I'm going to give this till 7:30 to speak. So we have a couple more hands. I'm going to go up to the screen and we're going to have Apple and then Alice and then Rachel, and then we'll come back down to the audience. Oh,
Why do they get second time when we don't even get first?
I'm sorry. Can we have Chris White go? I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Here.
So much.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. Go, Chris, and then we'll go back up.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to make it clear. I'm not opposed to diversity training. Anybody that wants to have diversity training, I think that's great. Hats off to them. We have tons of laws across the books that you can't treat people differently. You have to be fair, but you can't make people be moral. That's number one. Number two, my problem is with this being taken on by the town government. When we have very capable organizations available who have proven that they can run things like this, if it's voluntary, I can voluntarily go to it at the select board, or I can voluntarily go to it at some organization. The whole purpose of having the select board do it, to me, is about power. That's my feeling on it. I am not a racist, and I very much resent the fact that I don't agree with how this is being done. It has nothing to do with whether I think it's a good idea. I just don't think it should be done this way. One of the first letters I sent, I said, be very careful because this can cause division. I rest my case.
Thank you, Chris.
What is in the best interest of the community?
I may pass out from this.
It's getting hot in here.
All right, Apple.
Hi, everyone. Again, so I'm a school teacher. I have been for a long time. And like some of you on the select board, I've taken a bunch of these trainings before. And one of the things that you learn I learned really early on in these trainings is to make a distinction between what sort of your personal views on race and racism, and the kind of inequity or imbalances that exist in the systems and institutions that we depend on in our lives. So it's really easy in these kinds of conversations to get personally upset and offended by the implication or the insinuation that the reason that this kind of training is important is because the people who sit in town government are racist. And that's not, because the trainings that we've researched and we're recommending are focused on government. I just want to be clear that we're not looking to change the hearts and minds of individuals. That's not the kind of training that this is. These trainings are designed to have the people who represent an institution or a government body look closely at the policies, the regulations, the protocols, and the laws, to ask them and to look at the history of these bodies, right, these institutions, to understand how the policies, the regulations, the laws came to be and whether they're fair or not. And I'll give you an example from my own school. So I work at a private school down in Massachusetts. We're a school, I don't think anybody at the school would say that they are racist. I think people value the diversity in our student community and in our faculty community, and we care very deeply about these issues. And yet, after taking one of these trainings, we looked at some of our student discipline policies, and we recognize, and student discipline policies, and also some of our event policies. And we realized that they were unfair to certain members, to certain sort of groups of the population, people, working families, for instance. Or we looked at the data, and we found that students of color were being punished or disciplined differently or more often than other students. And that's really common. When schools do that and they look at the data, they find that the policies that they've always had and always have felt okay about may not actually be the fairest policies, or may not be being enforced as fairly, right? Police departments do this. Because all of these institutions, they have policies. And, you look at our national government, at one point in our national government, slavery was legal, right? Segregation was legal. And it was only through the efforts of looking at these things and bringing them to the Supreme Court and looking at them closely and really examining them from all angles and looking at the history that people were like, actually, this isn't fair. But unless we do that work, the five of you on the select board who are, super qualified, who know Newfane really well, to sit down with these policies and look at them and really ask yourselves, are these fair? What are the histories of these policies? What does the data tell us? Unless you actually do that, you'll never know. So that's why I am excited about these trainings, is not because, again, I'm not looking to change the hearts and minds of people. I don't know what's in the hearts and minds of the people sitting at that table, and I would never presume to know what's in your hearts and minds. But I do feel like Newfane, just like any other town in Vermont, needs to be the body, the institution, the town of Newfane needs to be looked at closely. And I don't think that we can do that until the trainings happen, right? People ask, like, why does the town have to do it? I think the select board is the only group that can do it, because you are the ones who hold those policies. I'm a justice of the peace. My job is to attend, tax abatement hearings. I've never looked at the policies that we use in the tax abatement hearings. I'm going to be going to the the Vermont League of City and Towns training so that I can understand more about those policies and take a close look and see how they're enforced and how they're enacted in Newfane. So in order to make this conversation go more smoothly, I would just encourage us not to be thinking about personal racism. Who's racist, who's not? What does that person sitting next to me think about me and my racism, or whether I'm racist? But think about the town. What's best for the town? Again, the question that was posed is, why does the town have to do this? And I think the town, the government of the town is the only group that can do it. And I would put a question back to the group to the people who are questioning this and say, what is the harm? What's the harm in a voluntary training? Right? If the town says we like this training and those of us who want to go are going to go, and we encourage other people to go, you don't have to, but we encourage you to because we think it's going to make our town a better place and a more welcoming place. Where's the harm in that? So that's something I'd like you to think about is what's the harm?
Thank you, Apple. I'm gonna have to move along because we have a new speaker. I'm sorry, Alice, I know you really want to speak, but Dan DeWalt, I'm gonna give you, can we get out the timer? Because we're running out of some time. So I'm gonna give 3 minutes. So let's go, Dan.
Thanks. I just have a couple of things. I'm wondering, and Apple just touched on this, what I'm confused about is what we're asking here is a recognition that even though to many people it seems like Newfane is totally welcoming and totally great, and I love Newfane, I've been here and I'm not leaving, but there are folks who have expressed that they don't feel entirely comfortable, entirely safe, or entirely welcome. And even though maybe I can't even understand that, but I think that as residents, they have a voice that is valuable. And I'm confused when we're talking about a training which is voluntary. I don't understand the threat of that. I don't understand why that is such, everything that the folks who spoke against this said about hard work and everything, those things are all true, but that really has nothing to do with what we are doing here. And it seems like in an effort to delegitimize it. And the last thing I would say is, people were saying 132, there were 190 some people signed this letter, and 134 of them are Newfane residents. And yet that's not enough for some people, and they're questioning the legitimacy of that number. And that number is actually 2 people more than voted for one of the select board members who are against this solution. And we would never consider saying that select board member is not legitimate because he only had 132 votes. So I'm just confused at where there's such anger and such resistance. And I'm honestly just baffled and, actually quite saddened, because this is about caring for people who are our neighbors. And that is really, and recognizing that our point of view, as wonderful as it is not necessarily the only point of view. That's all.
Thank you so much, Dan. Alice?
The only problem is I have lived the history, and I have seen initiatives like this come about that were voluntary at first, and then ended up being de facto, if not de jure, the law of the land. I would say, again, is there a problem in Newfane? Actually, honestly, I have not seen any problem in any of Vermont in general. People will have there will be people with predispositions. You can't convince everybody, but usually if you present yourself decently to people, they go back to you in that way. I'm really sorry. The selectman who's at the person who's at your right, Ms. Huber, I don't remember your name, but you did say that you went to some other part of the country and it was really a culture shock.
Katy.
That's okay. I've had many culture shocks, but that's part of growing up. I honestly don't believe that Vermont has a systemic racism problem. I believe now, I'm just going to say one last thing, and I know your time is up, but I could already see the writing on the wall. The first thing that's going to happen is, instead of seeing me as Alice, you're going to have to see me as a Black female. And to be honest, that's a step back. It's like my mother told me, Alice, she said, you got to let the boys win sometime playing in chess. And I asked her, why? Why do I have to let the boys win? And would anybody here want me to let them win? If you practice enough, you will become proficient, and then you and I will know when you win that you won on your own. I'm not trying to say that people do not have problems, but if you have a problem, there are, like the young man who was in the audience said, there are places you can go to get that training. You do not have to have, when the government steps in and says, we're going to start working on this problem, then that makes it part of the official stance of the community that perhaps there is a problem, and I don't believe there is. But then again, that's my perspective versus someone else's. I would hope that this kind of solution does not present itself. I would hope that people would just continue to do the right thing. Don't do me any favor and try to make things equitable. I don't want equity. I don't. For all the time that I worked 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm not giving you my grades. You want a grade like mine, you work as hard as I do, and you might get there. I don't want equity. Even in homes, everybody doesn't start out at the same point. Your siblings don't all come to the same point. And certainly in a community, they're not going to all come to the same point. And that's all I have to say. I love your town. I know if I came there tomorrow, maybe I'll drive up there. I bet everybody would be very happy to see me and do business with me. Of course, I'll have a mask.
Well, we welcome you to our town and thank you so much for being here.
All right, but I know that I won't find, I would have to search high and low, but I bet you everybody would be just decent people. Now, I know everybody wants, now there may be people who can't, there are some people you can't be decent to them. You just can't be decent to them. They won't be nice. They want you to do everything for them. For those people, I'm not doing everything for you. Suck it up. But if you work hard, I will help you get it.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to end with Kate. She's been waiting a long time. I apologize.
You know what? I'm going to give my mic to Tom Eli, who's also here. And if there's time, thank you, Angela. I just want to make sure Tom
okay
to speak too.
Thank you, Kate. I think you probably may have more to say than I do, but I wanted, many of you on the select board know this already. I've served 20 years as the Episcopal Bishop of Vermont. I know Vermont. I've been around Vermont. I've seen the diversity, equity, and inclusion issues through the lens of the church. And I want to just make the point that the issue is not about power in terms of the select board. It's about leadership. And you have an opportunity here to express your leadership in addressing a concern that is widespread throughout Vermont. With all due respect to Ms. Flanders, there are issues around Vermont, and we could go into a long, detailed list of those that I've seen in my experience as bishop. But it's true, and our opportunities to give leadership in offering the kind of equity, diversity, inclusion training that is being talked about here is an important opportunity. The Episcopal Church, its House of Bishops, all through our effort, over and over again, my own learning about dignity and white privilege and other things have increased my knowledge and understanding to a remarkable degree. And I just invite you to come open to the possibility of learning more about what is true for so many people. Maybe not every person on this call, but true for many people throughout Vermont, and I suspect in our community as well. And I'm grateful to be living in Newfane and grateful to have the opportunity to share in this conversation with you and give you my pledge to do anything I can to be helpful in providing the kind of leadership that you need to help others explore their learning as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Tom. Kate?
Oh, thank you. I won't be long. I just will really echo things that have been said at this point. But I think it is a great idea to continue learning and working to do better, and for the town government to make sure that it does the best job possible it can for all citizens. And it's not a condemnation to be open to learning and to continue to make that a priority and to show town residents that the select board will lead the way on that. Thank you all for considering it and for taking it so seriously and for doing this good work on behalf of all of us and all our many voices.
Thank you so much, Kate. And Rachel, and then I'm sorry, we'll have to end for the evening on that.
Yeah, I'll make it really short, but thank you for letting me speak. So I'm a new resident to Williamsville. My family moved here at the beginning of the pandemic, which was very hard. I have to say that we chose Newfane because of the amazing community that's here. And also my husband is Latino and a new American, and it was very important to our family to have a safe and welcoming community that looking for a safe and welcoming community is also what brought me to the Vermont Food Bank, and the fact that they center diversity, equity, inclusion in their work is which ultimately chose the organization. In an organization, we really center that work and learning in particular. We have all staff learning days. We also have optional trainings for all staff. And it's really helped us grow our programs and making sure that we're reaching everyone in the community. And we're more than willing to talk to anyone about our own diversity, equity, and inclusion journey, share resources, our thoughts, and our own processes. Again, it's different for everybody, and I recognize that everyone has their own way of looking at learning and training, so happy to help. So feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much. And we do have, like Anne had mentioned in her statement, that VLCT has sent us the link for 3 trainings that are coming up in June and 1 in July. And those are for employees of the town and VLCT members and the select board. And I know Katie and Anne and myself are all attending those. I can't mandate anybody to attend, but I encourage folks to attend if they feel they would like to.
I would just like to add a suggestion that we plan at our select board meeting at the end of that course to plan a discussion of how we felt about the course, and do we think it is something that we would recommend for other town employees and volunteers.
I think that would be great, personally.
I think it would also be nice if we could maybe come up with a list for anti-bias training of courses that seem that are well known. And I'm looking at Jen Stanchfield's note when she signed, which was, I agree with pursuing this effort as long as with a quality training facilitated by a nationally recognized professional organization with years of experience. So not something that has just evolved, but a practiced and used and accepted course. Jen does this for her living. She would be a great resource, and I will follow up with her about recommendations, and also with West River Mutual Aid. Maybe you also have some courses that you know are well accepted, and provide those as a list. If anybody's curious, if anybody wants to take courses, these are some that are available.
Is Michael still with us?
I believe so, Michael.
Yeah.
Hi.
No, I just been listening. I mean, you know, it's like I said, it's a volunteer thing if you want to do it, if you want to do it down. I think that's a good thing if they want to do it. Only thing I haven't really heard were there's 190 some people that have signed on to this. If they're looking for help, where would they go? I mean, I know the town's covered with the VLCC, got this stuff that we can all go to. I mean, I guess that includes like Ken and him if they want to go do it too. But there's 190 some people they said that signed this paper. I mean, obviously, maybe some of them have a problem with things. Where can they go seek help too, or talk about this? I haven't heard any private people where they can go to talk to it. I know the town's covered through the VLCC, which anybody wants to go, I'm all for letting them go to whatever they want to do, But
that's where having a resource list would help.
Yes, it looks like Kate has something to add to that.
I just wanted to tell you that we have indeed been collecting recommendations, and we will get those to you in writing. There are lots of great resources of all different scales So in addition to the one that we recommended, we're happy to submit the longer list of options that we found.
Excellent.
So I
Shelley?
also would like to note that I think we should be sending people to the mutual aid group.
Sure.
And let them, you know, conduct whatever training or whatever that their hearts desire. And if you need to have it, then, I mean, there's resources in our community. But as far as the select board goes, it's a volunteer extracurricular program that's awareness. And I like to end this because I think we spent way too much time on this.
Fiona, can you possibly get in touch with Juanetta about a contact person through your group?
Yes, I
Okay.
can definitely do that, and I would also encourage you to, Karen Horn would be a great resource at VLCT.
Okay.
And when you said that everyone in town, everyone got the VLCT information, does that include all of the volunteers that work on all of the committees in town?
They're not qualified to
No,
take the
I'm not,
program.
it's the
Yes, absolutely.
folks here, right?
When I was talking to Karen, anyone that volunteers in an official capacity for the town is able to access any of the VLCT resources.
Oh, they are, as
So I would-
volunteers,
As volunteers, because they're acting in an official capacity of the town.
well, so
I
that's
would-
like the planning commission does all the time.
So
Yeah.
Chris,
Can I
go
finish
ahead.
what I was saying?
Yeah, go ahead.
Would it be possible for you, the select board, or someone to share this information that these are available, the VLCT trainings are available to all of the volunteers that work for our town?
We'll find that
I think
out.
they already get that
Thank you.
information.
Two volunteers.
I was just asking if they
Yeah,
did
the
have access, and she
volunteers.
said that they may not have gotten that information, so I just want them to get the information.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we use
Juanetta,
that.
then I'll
resource.
look into it on
Thank you, I
Wednesday.
really appreciate it.
No problem.
Two things real quick.
Yep.
One is, are we free to add resources to the list that you're compiling?
Absolutely. I don't see why not.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Number two, one of the things that really, really troubles me is when I see this difference of philosophy, if you will. We're not talking to each other. That really, really bothers me. There's a program at the library where this can happen. There are other programs. That would be way more beneficial than this proposed training is if we just talk to each other.
Right. Thank you.
So with that, I'm out of here.
Thank you
I
for
have a
coming
nice dinner.
tonight.
Thank you, Chris.
And Ken, real quick?
Yeah, just apropos of the volunteer discussion, I mean, as a commissioner, somehow or another, I did get that email and I was able to sign up.
Excellent.
So I'm on board with the VLCT. But I do think that as much as it's good that we share resources and such, and I think this is where Ann was going, is that eventually, if sooner if not later, I'm not sure, how it all works, but that there's an affirmation, I don't know if it's a vote, an affirmation, a statement, whatever, from the select board that officially recognizes the value of a training and strongly encourages, So I think that's probably the direction that the select board is heading. That's my sense of what the signatories to the statement, was aiming at. So that, if not, obviously not this evening, but I think that's something that's contemplated.
I would just say that in response that I would feel strongly that before making such a statement as a select board member, I would want to feel confident that what we were proposing really had value to us as town employees and volunteers, because I have taken courses and they do run the gamut from excellent. I mean, I took one that was really superb to others that were just like, this really is not enough here. I have hope in the VLCT program for two reasons. One, everything else I've gotten from them has been excellent. So I think they have a real reputation for quality. And they are focused on understanding the role of government. And as government employees and volunteers, to me, that makes a world of difference.
And it might not be appropriate for the average resident to need to.
I'm not talking about the average resident. I'm just
Right.
talking about why choose that course for our purpose. Oh, you're saying why put it together a different list?
Why recommend that to the rest of the town if they aren't in the government. That's
I
my,
don't think that's what she's saying. I think it's being recommended for town employees, and we're gonna find out for volunteers and such and go from there.
Excuse me.
I'm not looking.
Where
for
does
those.
where does the public, the voters stand here? Because all I'm hearing about is what you guys want to do. And you may have talked to 10 or 50 or 190 people, but have you talked to all 1,500 homeowners in this town?
we can't
No,
get
of
them to
course
come
not.
vote.
So put it on the ballot and listen to their vote.
One
That's
second,
my-
this does not cost the town any money. It is part of our membership in VLCT. We cannot function without our membership in VLCT. So it is not a monetary issue. It is a voluntary option. I do not see the need for it to go to a town vote. But if, after taking the course and understanding what it is, then I think we can evaluate if that is something that is needed. But at the moment, I do not see what the question would be that we would be asking.
Whether they want you to partake in this.
It's
You want
training.
to-
They don't have a choice.
Own it separate and not make a statement validating this process of indoctrination.
I really
I don't see
appreciate
it as indoctrination.
That's exactly what it is.
I really appreciate everybody coming this evening and participating in this topic. And I appreciate hearing everybody's points of views. We do get the opportunity for volunteer training on this topic, June 21st, 28th, and July 14th. Anybody in town employee or select board, or we'll find out about volunteers. And if it's so, we'll make it available. And then, as Ann suggested, we'll meet after those meetings to discuss our feelings about the trainings.
Madam Chair, so I think this issue is more of a division than it is a uniter.
Noted. Thank you. I appreciate everybody coming. We're going to move on to our next item. Do we have an animal control update? Ms. Juanetta?
I put it in as part of my administrative report.
Well, let's go to your administrative report since I skipped over that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Walter Hagendorf has worked on the flower gardens here at the town office. Anson Baldwin, the new owner at D&E Tree, donated the mulch, and Paul Dutton at Dutton's Farm Stand and Greenhouse in Newfane donated some beautiful flowers. I wish to express our gratitude to Mr. Baldwin and Mr. Dutton for their generosity.
That's a very nice thing.
It was great.
Yeah.
Did you coordinate that?
Actually, I had spoken with Walter Hagendorf when he came in, and he volunteered to do the garden work and then coordinated for the donations.
Oh, very nice.
Can you send them an official letter thanking them for the
Yes,
town?
thank you.
I will.
Thank you.
Yeah.
On May 10th, there were two separate incidences involving dogs. And included in the memos to refresh the select board. The first incident on River Road has been able to settle the matter. On Blueberry Circle, I have made 7 attempts to contact the dog owners by phone with no results. This was a dog-on-dog attack, and I would like to get further direction from the select board to help deal with this incident.
Can I stop you there? Our next is a formal letter, correct?
We have sent certified letters before, yes.
So we don't know who the dogs are, owners?
I know.
We
Yes,
believe
I
the
am
owners.
aware of who the dog owners are and where they both live,
Oh, okay.
but they have not been able to return my calls.
Oh, okay. Well, where are we at with the sheriff's animal control?
That's next on your list. You can keep going.
Yeah. Sheriff Mark Anderson will attend the June 21st select board meeting to discuss the regional animal control program that will begin on July 1st. They do have he calls it a different name, but it's a rules of procedure for the animal control officer and how they go about handling certain calls.
Can you get us a copy of that for that meeting?
I will ask him for it.
Thank you.
And do we also have an idea of what it's going to cost the taxpayers?
That was already mentioned, that with the 5 groups that are currently participating, the 5 towns, our share, based on the amount of projected use, is $2,700 per year.
Wow, that's cheap.
Very affordable.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And that's based on a 10% call volume.
And that's their expectations, but we'll see.
Correct.
Maybe we'll need it less.
Now, they're gonna be able to house these animals if they have to take them under control?
Yes.
And where are they housing them?
There is crates that they will have available to the animal control officer. And if there is reason to believe they need to be taken down to Wyndham Humane Society after that, then they would be housed there.
But they're gonna house them over at the office here, the sheriff's office?
I was not aware of where they are keeping them, but they do have crates available and kennels.
And again, we should note that the Wyndham Humane Society do not take in any dog that is vicious or dangerous. So do they have?
They have the ability to put the animal down if not necessary.
To put them down?
So we can ask all these questions to Sheriff Anderson next meeting when he comes.
So I take care of the 21st meeting, but she's talking about the ones over on Blueberry Circle right now.
Right, that's what she would like an answer to.
Now, didn't we talk to Dover if they'd step in until we got somebody?
Yes.
Why couldn't we just return this to?
But I think she made phone calls and did not get any responses from the dog owner. I do believe the next step, according to our ordinance, is that we send a certified letter stating that there has been an incident with their dog, and these are the proper steps that need to be followed.
So
and then we go with then we call the animal control officer.
So when was this attack?
May 10th.
And today is?
June
7th.
Okay, so what's happened between May 10th and June 7th?
I've made 7 attempts to contact them. I've gone from the parent, the uncle in North Carolina, to the grandmother in Jamaica, and the woman still does not return my call.
Okay, so the policy states what? If we can't reach them within X amount of hours, they should be certified letter sent?
I'm looking it up right now. I have it.
I don't really see about the certified letter. If you got a problem with a dog, if we've got town of Dover kind of working for us for a step in right now, when I had a problem with a dog, I'd be calling up town of Dover and say, look, this person's got the problem, and go see them,
If it was a person involved in the incident, it would be different than the dog on dog.
Oh.
Is how they handle it.
Okay.
Because it was a person, you'd have to be clear on the rabies.
Correct. But this is a dog on dog incident. It was not involved in a personal.
Do we have that kind of stated in our policy, or should we consider that?
It's going to be considered in the new procedure for animal control.
Good. We'll get there. Yeah. I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
There's, I'm at the response to violations by animal control officer, but since we don't have an animal control officer, what do we that's the more difficult
We
thing.
got
We
the
don't have.
administrative assistant to handle it as the selectman.
I do believe the next step is to send them a letter
Written
stating that
warning.
there's been a violation, a report against their dog, and these are the steps that will happen if you do not take care of
And
the situation.
currently, there is no registration or vaccinations on file.
Right.
We're saying about a letter, how long do you give them?
That's also.
Are we giving them 10, 15 days or?
I could do it through service through the sheriff's department.
And they'll take it to the door.
A notice of service.
Yeah.
Would be
No, I'm
handled.
just saying, though, how long do we give them by that letter to respond to us? I mean, a lot can happen in a week or two.
I don't know.
I mean, that's what I'm saying is, if Dover's working for us, that guy should be the one knocking on the door.
Correct.
I mean, it's just when we got an animal control officer, we don't step into it until he comes back and tells us we got a real problem.
So
Right
since-
now, we don't have one, but we do have one, 'cause they said they would help us out until we do have one, which is, I hope on the 21st is gonna go away with the sheriff's department.
That won't start until July 1 with the new fiscal year.
At any rate.
Well, it's close, I mean, so no matter what, you know, I mean, I think right now, the guy from Dover should have been called on. He gone and knock on the door to see it. And if not, I mean, like I said, a letter, I mean, certified letter, you're gonna send it out and give them to them, they got a week or so to respond to us, or 2 weeks. I mean, I don't know, it's up to you guys, but I would call that guy up and say, go see him.
Yeah, I make a recommendation, we call the Dover Animal Control and see what their plan would be.
I'm sure they got a policy all in place anyway.
Yeah.
I think that's a good recommendation. Can we do that on Wednesday or Thursday morning?
So are we looking to impound the dog? Because, well,
Or
that's what the intervention would imply, that we're willing to impound the dog without giving them notice of.
Because she still
intent
hasn't
or-
gotten any contact.
Well, what I would do is talk with the Dover Animal Control, ask them of what they would suggest based on what the situation is currently and the time involved since the incident.
Call, yeah.
And the other thing
I'm
is,
sorry, could I just make a recommendation related to that?
Yeah.
That Katy, since she has a relationship with the Dover person, has some comfort with dealing with these situations, that Katy follow up and pursue this.
Would you like to work with Juanetta on this?
I'm happy to do that, Juanetta. What day?
Perfect. Maybe Thursday?
Wednesday or Thursday?
Let's do Thursday, if that's okay. Wednesday, my son's home with me.
Okay.
now, one other question, when the dogs attacked each other, was there blood?
Yeah, the dog.
Yes. One of the dogs ended up going down to the Greenfield Animal Clinic, I believe, in the memo, one of the memos that I provided you.
So I guess my only question is
Okay.
how it was in last week's packet.
It got continued from the last.
So if the animal control officer is supposed to issue a verbal warning and then a written warning, and then we write a citation, since we don't have any conversation with the owner, how do we go forward?
She had a conversation with the owner's grandmother to make them aware.
And she strongly suggested to her granddaughter that she call and get a hold of me to avoid any further
issues.
Yeah.
So
I mean, for something the dog bites, a lot of the dogs, it's not registered and it's not been proved that it has vaccination.
Right.
So that's what I say, I mean, that, the animal guy that goes over, you know, besides being, you know, the dog biting somebody, it doesn't have no paperwork with it.
So are we issuing a fine since there has been no contact?
Is that in our procedures?
That is, there's a first offense, second offense, third offense, number keeps going up.
$15.
It's $15, yes, but do we, I mean, and registering.
And if the dog is not registered,
And registering the animal.
fine there too.
I make a motion, we let Katie talk to the guy that's over, see what they do with it and deal with it.
Right, I just want to hash it out with you for a
Is there-
second to understand where I'm going.
Is there a second?
I second that.
I heard it.
Any further discussion?
Do you have all the
I
information?
appreciate you handling the dog
Believe so.
issues until July 1. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All
And
opposed?
sorry.
It's okay.
So just be, Juanetta is out tomorrow, but just be in contact with her Wednesday or Thursday
Yeah,
to set something up, and that would be fantastic.
It'd be very helpful.
I have been asked if the link for the quarterly publication for the Newfane Brookline newsletter would be available on the Newfane website. And this came from Priscilla Cotton.
I think that's a great
I make a
idea.
motion to put the link on the website, definitely.
Second,
Sure.
yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
I received delivery of 3 new sets of shelves for the upstairs storage area. There is currently some old printers and keyboards that we would like permission to dispose of or to donate to the tech class at Leland and Gray.
Are the hard drives wiped clean?
I'm sorry?
The
Are the hard
printers and
drives?
keyboards, it's not
Oh,
computer.
I thought,
Yeah.
I saw, okay. I think that's a great idea to donate them.
If they work,
If they'll take them.
if they take them because they're so old.
Maybe they're doing a history of technology.
One of the employees' students works in the tech department. They're taking apart laptops and putting them back together in working condition.
Oh, okay, so we're playing with them.
That's why it was a recommendation to donate it to them.
Gotcha.
Do you have a motion to donate to the printers and keyboards to the tech class at Leland and Gray?
I'll make a motion for that.
Second,
Yep, I second.
any further discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yep. Additionally, I have provided you with information that came in today from Sullivan and Powers. They are our town auditors. This is something the select board may like to consider putting out for bid unless they would like to agree to the same price as last year of $1,600. They are up for a contract renewal. You'll see that the current contract in your hand is $17,100. Our past contract that expires soon was for $16,000. That's what we budgeted last year.
So where's the number on the page? What page are we looking at?
If you look at, on the Sullivan Towers, it's going to be on the bottom of the 7th page,
Under fee.
under fee arrangements.
Fee arrangements.
Okay.
What says our treasurer? Have you discussed with our treasurer?
I have discussed with our treasurer. She is very happy with
Yes.
Sullivan and Powers and working with them.
Yep.
They've been very, very educational and very helpful when she's had questions. She is aware that the contract is due, and on our conversation, I said, well, if I approach them and they agree to the same price as last year, would the select board be willing to go with that rather than put it out to bid? Where we've already budgeted that 16,000, if Sullivan Powers would agree to negotiate that price instead of the 17.
Let's negotiate. Let's try it.
I think, yeah.
Sure, why not?
Okay.
Because, and just note that we've already put in the budget for that amount.
And we can vote on this for the next meeting.
Yes,
Thank you.
I would be interested in contacting them to see if they would be willing to do that. Otherwise, we could let them know that it's going out to bid because of the price difference.
Yeah. There's some other things, but I don't want to show my hand on it financially.
Yeah.
But I think we should talk about it. But they are excellent, and Melissa really enjoys working with them.
Yeah, Jordan is actually coming down tomorrow to do a NEMRIC audit for the state of Vermont. And I think we were chosen because he's familiar with our programs.
Yeah.
And works well with her.
Yeah, excellent. Well, and also Melissa's just excellent as a treasurer.
That is the end of my report.
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
We had talked previously about inviting other parts of the town to come speak to us, give us updates. I was curious what the status was of that. And the second one was at our last meeting, we said that you were going to talk to other employees here in the building about how they felt about rescinding the mask law for those who are vaccinated.
Actually, on our agenda to speak with coming up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then can you address the first issue?
I have constructed the list and contacted by email to get scheduling, but have not had success in responding. So I have spoken with, well, Ken is here as part of the planning commission. He's very, very informative. Merle is the zoning administrator, is currently dealing with some health issues both with his wife and himself.
Oh,
So I don't expect that to be happening anytime soon.
sorry to hear that.
As far as the DRB or Williamsville Hall, I have not had contact with them. I think they're, like most people, still waiting on the COVID restrictions, mask recommendations.
Okay. Okay, cool. Are those spaces available for rent for private functions at this time?
Oh,
I think we're waiting to.
We're still
Yeah.
waiting? Okay.
because it's all.
Can you
volunteer
please
based.
email it to the folks that have not responded to you so that we can get an update? And that would be fantastic. Thank you. Is there a motion to accept the administrative assistance report?
All right, so motion.
Second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
So committee report, we have Anne, we have had be our liaison to the planning commission with Ken Esty as a discuss ideas in the town plan update.
Okay, let me turn it over to Ken because I know he has that proposal to put forth.
So on June 3rd planning commission meeting, we unanimously passed the following motion. The motion reads, the planning commission will go back to the town plan to create an updated 2021 list of key priorities and then organize 2 or 3 meetings with the town and return to the select board with a priority list of proposed projects. We contemplate these 2 or 3 meetings, and really all of this activity to take place this summer. So I just wanted to speak narrowly to that motion. And I can add other things or respond to questions, but I felt that I wanted to put forward that motion. Now I know you're probably taking notes, Manetta. What I should do really is get Nolan's official rendering of the motion, but if you want to take this, certainly just to get started. Yeah,
Thank you, Ken.
sure.
So I think the goal is that with the money coming from the federal government and from the state, for us to have a master list of potential projects and to see where we want to spend the money. So much work was done on the town plan a few years ago, but it's been 3 years now. COVID has happened. People may have other thoughts about things that should be added or recommended for a master list. So the goal would be to have those meetings that would give members of the town to come forward and talk about what they would like, and then to finalize this list and bring it to the select board to vote on to see what we would want to recommend spending ARPA monies on and other funds we might get, or grants that we might apply for. And when we bring forward that list, the thought would be to also bring with it a proposal for how to manage the list, because it doesn't get managed magically, I've discovered. So
Well, I'm gonna suggest that if we go ahead with these projects, which I'm all for, we really need to consider in the budget a consultant to manage these projects.
I agree. I agree.
Because we as board members, we may be capable of it, but we all have other responsibilities.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I've been trying to do this for the years that I've been on the select board. There's a great fund of money coming. It's the perfect time to grab hold of this and do some real good work with it. But we've got to be committed to having a good consultant to manage it.
I totally agree. 100% agree. 100%
Yeah, Ken?
agree.
Yeah, I would just add that I think it would be fair to say that the planning commission members have a similar feeling about their own individual capacity to carry out,
Yeah,
Exactly.
so, so that we share that. And, I would also just like to emphasize the very fact of our discussion tonight is what I call the great convergence, in other words, a long held dream of mine and other planning commissioners that were working very closely together on the town plan. The fact that the town plan is even being discussed in a select board meeting is an extraordinary achievement and wonderful to hear and to be part of. So this is really, for all the difficult things, whether it's animal control, whatever the case may be, this is huge, huge progress for us as a town.
and it's a very positive thing.
And I'm very positive.
Very positive, because, we are the bedroom community of Brattleboro. And people are coming to Vermont. Brattleboro is a major city, the third or fourth largest city in Vermont. They are not necessarily going to live in Brattleboro, they want country. We're the next town up. And what do we have to offer as far as housing?
What do we have for public transportation?
Nothing.
Snake eyes.
So these are all things that will be probably discussed at these meetings, because they were discussed when the planning commission, when I was a part of it. And back in 17, 18, these were all.
So what about buses?
No, but we talked about transportation. We talked.
18?
No, 2017, 18. I aged well. Anyway, I was part of the planning commission with that. And these were some of the topics that were discussed at the community forum that we held. So I think it's a great idea to go back and see if there was still the same concerns, what townsfolk would like to see. And that also helps make our community even more vibrant by listening and taking in what everybody has to say and working on goals.
Totally
So
agree.
I love this.
So the priorities would be, like 1, 2, 3, 4,
But I think probably by maybe
Oh,
the
I'm-
topics.
Well, and also by the financing, the money. We've got to work with what the money is tailored for.
Well, that brings us into one of our new business ideas that I think we can roll right into is the American Rescue Plan Act, the ARPA funds.
So
This is Ann and
both
Katy.
Katie and I attended a presentation by Vermont League for cities and towns. And I put together just a short memo for everyone. I'm not going to go through it, but the basic key point that I just wanted to point out is that we don't have to rush to decide how to spend the money. We have until the end of 2026 to spend it. But by the end of 2024, we have to have decided where we plan to spend it. So we really do have some time to think things through and make sure that we're making the right decisions. There are several categories of funding where we can use the monies, and you'll see on the next several pages that I copied the pages from the presentation where they talked about the different types of eligible projects. And there was one note as well about the things that are ineligible. They recommended that we appoint an authorized representative, that we engage with the public in a discussion of priorities and options. And I think that is what we'd be doing over the summer. Once decided, they recommend publishing the intended use of the funds so that everything is well-known, above board, public. And they also recommended that we be patient and be deliberate, which I think that is particularly important in our case because we have not had a list quite like this before. And so I think that we really should be having those discussions to make sure that we're making the list of projects that we want to, that will do the most for our community. It is my guess and my hope that the things on the list will far exceed the monies available, and that this will therefore set up a master list that we can work from over the next several years. Some of the projects will probably be huge in scope. I'm just throwing something out. Let's say we want to build housing or put in a septic system or the like.
A water system.
A water system. Those are big bucks.
Yeah.
But it might be possible that if we think about it as a multi-year process, that what we could pay for in the first year would be, let's say, the engineering fees, which would be legal under ARPA. So I think that the list that we construct over the summer, I think should be our hopes and our wishes for our town, knowing that we won't be able to do everything immediately, but that over time we can begin to really work through the list and make it our plan for our future growth, which I think would be phenomenally exciting.
Well, I think we should make a plan to definitely be involved with the planning committee. People, either meeting with them during the meeting, to set in on some ideas, committee meetings. And then bring it back, so that we could all understand the plan better, because it's massive.
What I would recommend is that the planning commission has gone through the town plan. I think they plan to do it a second time, or maybe I'm wrong, or just edit the list. But I think they could go through the plan and edit out all the projects that are proposed in there already, and then have a discussion. Because I know I have some personal hopes and wishes that I would like to add to the discussion. So,
and also put it on the next town meeting.
Would we be ready by the next town meeting in 2 weeks?
No, this kind of.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not our meeting,
March.
town meeting.
Town meeting, yes, sure, absolutely.
I have a question about the authorized rep. It was my understanding from the meeting that needs to be decided post haste. And that name needs to be at the top. They're the ones that are doing the receiving of the funds. They're the ones that are answering to the state in a regular basis. Once a year, these projects have to be reported on, and how the harmful effect of COVID-19 has been addressed. So we need a name, and I believe that we need to decide that sooner rather than later.
I didn't get that impression from the meeting.
It says they recommend that the select board do the following, but I don't think there's any urgency in doing these immediately. Appoint as an authorized
That was my
representative.
impression. That's what you're reading is my
Right,
impression.
Anne's
Yeah.
impression. Engage the public.
Why don't
in
we just
discussion.
confirm that? Because I think depending on what the roles and responsibilities of that person would be, it would talk to who that person should be. Like, should it be Melissa? Should it be the
consultant?
So
the consultant.
So this was in the very first portion of the man who spoke. The very first thing he said was the town will need to request and certify funding from AOA through a web portal. The state has 30 days to redistribute that money once that request is received. The point of contact or chief official has to be decided by us so that we can receive the money, so that it is sitting where we need it. But in order to receive it, we have to decide on this person. Is that our treasurer? Is that one of us?
To receive the money?
Correct.
Give any examples?
Well, we have, and I forget the term now. Juanetta, maybe you can help me out. It was a special thing that we have, a certification that Melissa has to receive the money. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Are you talking about Sam?
No, it's an account.
Oh, it's an identified account.
And we
Yes, we have it.
Yes.
And it's Melissa's name, right?
I don't know.
I would assume, or is it the town of Newfane, whomever treasurer is?
It's gotta be.
Could I recommend that we clarify this with VLCT and bring this up?
Yeah,
again?
Okay.
Select board to look at it. Can you do that? or-
That's me. I can certainly do that.
Okay.
And possibly contact Melissa as well to
Yes.
find out what she.
Yep.
That'd be great.
We watched it together.
Perfect.
So we were here talking about it, and we both
Thought it was important.
thought it was important.
So we will bring this up on our next meeting as well.
Cool.
And Shelly, I have you for board policy for vacant offices and committees.
Yeah, so I don't know if we have a policy at this point. No. So what I'm recommending is that the town of Brattleboro has some policies. They're bigger, but I think policies always are good because everybody knows what's expected and we have a procedure and things to do. But just as a thought, I mean, when I came to the board, I filled in a position and I was asked to come before the board with a resume and have an interview.
To be a select person?
Yes.
Really?
I
Because
did.
she wasn't elected, it was an appointment.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
I was filling in a position that was vacant and someone left, or I don't even remember how that all happened. So I was asked to come and I didn't know, I was, somebody on the board suggested and they contacted me, and that's, just like a job interview. So it's not just anybody who's available, but it does
Like it's a
require,
process in place.
yeah. And I just think that we need to be a little bit more formal about, what the job description is. Some people don't even know what we do, and they're like, well, geez, I don't think I could do that, but maybe they could do it if they knew what we did.
I have learned a lot about the things that the select board does since March.
Yeah.
There were some things that I just didn't know. Wow, that's fun.
So I'm suggesting that we have a job description, of our board member duties, whatever. The chair organizes the agenda and conducts the meeting. But, all of us have different areas that we should probably oversee, like you're doing the grants, but to kind of.
Are you
make
talking
sure-
just select board, or are you talking about all the different?
No, I'm just talking about select board.
Huh,
Just
okay.
select board, and someone, from the select board should be contacting the treasurer and over, checking in with her, that sort of thing. Having rapport with her, so that if there's an issue, she could, or whomever, could discuss that with a select board member. So it's just, like a job, it's like, channel of, information, so that we're not disconnected.
Right. This procedure, unless there's more behind it, this one seems to be about volunteers only, right? So you just.
Oh, this is volunteers, but they got forms. But I'm also saying about select board. I think they also have select board forms.
Do you want to draft
I'll look into it. I just wanted to propose it as an idea. And then, the different departments that we have here, the committees, that we should assign them, and go to them. and check
Oh,
in with
have
them.
us bounce around?
Yeah.
So that people are aware of all the different aspects. I must say
Yes,
the thing
certainly. There are-
related to this, all the various things that people vote for, whether it's the constable, is that it?
Yeah.
And I don't know what some of these folks do.
Yeah, what's the description?
And in some of them, I wondered whether or not.
Select Secretary of State.
What?
The description for each of those.
Right, it's all that
committees
information is
and
out there.
appointments are on the Vermont Secretary of State.
Okay.
I have it in my administrative report.
Well, what I'm saying is that we put it, out there for people to understand what are these jobs or, responsibilities or elected or,
It's like a
positions.
description of what you're ordering for food at a restaurant. I'm gonna have a steak with garlic mashed potatoes and blah, blah, and that's filled with this, this, and this.
Yeah.
And a way to
Right.
interest people then. Involved. Sure.
Because some people may say, well, geez, I don't have any skills, or I don't even know what that means, constable.
What
It's
is
an
it?
old term. That's
Right.
police officer.
I know, but I didn't get it. So anyway.
Well, I know. I think sergeant of arms too, we're supposed to have, in case things get out of hand. But I mean, that's my suggestion. I like to be organized. I like to make sure we're covering all the areas.
We certainly need people to volunteer to
Yes.
be
And
in these
encourage.
positions here in town, and we
Right.
just don't have a great dialogue in the greater community. We have posting points, but that's about as impersonal as you could possibly be.
We need to engage people.
Yes. Very much so. I've already warned my friends. I
Shall
am
we
going
all
to be-
brainstorm and come back and discuss this again too?
Yeah.
With
I would-
ideas that we come up with?
Or I would also strongly recommend that Shelley draft a proposal. I like
Just a
delegating.
short one? How about an outline?
I'll do an outline,
Great.
a copy and
Thank you,
paste.
Thank you.
That works, that totally works.
And bring it, send it.
The
Okay,
first time in business, when I had to write some code,
yeah.
and they said to me, well, just copy somebody's. And I came from academia and go, copy? Copy? You can't copy? And they go, are you crazy? Just copy it.
Says do not copy.
Well, thank you. So now, again, Shelley, you have on here the Newfane mask mandate should be a consideration.
I would love to not wear masks anymore either.
Yeah, so I'm not up on the Vermont statute of masks,
I checked it.
wear masks. So I don't know if anybody is.
Anne
is.
I would like to offer that if it's us select board members and Juanetta, that we, most of us are vaccinated and those that us aren't, it's not, I don't think it's a problem anymore if it's just us. But if members of the public are here and they express concern, then we need to respect that.
I would like to say that's not fair to put, in my opinion, on the person from the public coming in and making the ask. What the state says,
okay.
it's kind of hard for someone to walk in, especially if you don't know people and say,
Right.
So what the state says is fully vaccinated people do not need to wear a mask. And you're fully vaccinated 14 days after your final shot.
Mhm.
If you are unvaccinated or partially vaccinated, including children, you are required to wear a mask in indoor public spaces. So that's the most recent briefing
What
on
was that? What date was that?
that one was on dated on May 18th, and I went back and checked just before I came to this meeting, and it says if you are not vaccinated, you are required to wear a face mask in indoor public spaces in Vermont. You don't need it outdoors, and they have their whole thing about,
I'm interested in hearing from BCTV if they have any information on how they are conducting business, because we need to take that into consideration as well. Your safety is very important to us. So we will be in contact with BCTV and find out that question. And then for our meetings anyway, we'll decide once we hear from BCTV.
And then what did town folks who work here say?
Out in the other room, the Lister's office and Carol have both been vaccinated. They have a shield where Carol can stay on one side. She chooses to wear masks when the public are in there, which is, fine.
Are they comfortable, or if we open up the offices to the public?
We already opened the doors. We allow people to come in.
Okay.
Cool. Carol is still taking research requests by appointment only, so that she can
control
the number of people in that area.
Great. That's great. Okay.
But
cool.
Yeah.
Because I thought there was a policy where it was like unvaccinated people, one per X amount of square feet space or whatever.
That seems like it's changing every day.
Yeah.
That may be.
I would also like to say for the town in general, that businesses keep it up to their discretion on what they would like to do. I don't think we can tell them what to do. If they still would like to require masks inside their businesses, they are entitled to.
Right. It's really up to them how they want to conduct their own business.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So the general public, if they've been vaccinated both and have passed that 14-day period, they are not required to wear a mask.
Correct.
To wear a mask in
That falls under, I fall under
building?
that.
To come into a building, correct, right.
Into our building.
Unless
you're asked to.
Unless in a public building, but a private building, you still have to adhere to the owner's.
Yeah, right, that's
correct.
Which
Yeah.
is
Exactly.
perfectly fine.
Do we need to make that
We
a
need to make a motion.
motion and make it a resolution?
Uh,
But
Somebody
don't we,
would like to make a motion?
I wonder.
don't we have a form? Oh, I'm sorry, we have
I'd
to
like
get
to
from
make a
the.
motion
we
that
can't.
upon hearing from.
That's why
BCTV.
why don't we
Okay, so
wait
yeah.
until the next
That sounds
meeting
good.
and make a
Yeah.
formal
Yep,
motion
yep.
when we hear from BCTV.
Yep.
Perfect, because we would like to keep them safe too.
Yes.
Okay, so now we are at correspondence.
Do we really,
Let's see.
The green one will give you the current correspondence list, the green folder.
Oh, thank you.
I have you better organized than you've got.
I know you do. So I'm just gonna go through and read these. The first letter, May 19th, to the town of Newfane Select Board. Dear Select Board, thank you for the opportunity to speak and ask questions on Monday's meeting. I have just recently learned of the West River Mutual Aid Society organization. It is laudable that so many people have organized to help and support others in our community. I have also recently learned that this group has requested the town/board members to take and to implement classes on diversity, anti-racist, and bias training. I attended the board meeting to gain an understanding of what this request is about and why the need for this request. I was struck by the divisiveness in the conversation. The need for such training classes implies there is a problem. There are many, including myself, who do not share the feeling or understanding that we are racist or biased. We all may have different opinions and different frame of references, but most of us get along and treat people with respect. Human nature lends itself to moments of lapses of positive character. Not everyone gets along all of the time, and we need to work it out. The very implication that most people are racist and biased in and of itself sets up initial bias. Regretfully, I felt that two sides were talking at this meeting. Those that wished to express that they did not feel such training was necessary, and also felt the Newfane Town Board was not the vehicle to enact and implement such training, and those that felt the town should make a statement. I suggest that the board is not the vehicle for a broad-based statement that we are biased/racist, or even that we don't get along. The board should not be placed in a position of sanctioning, oversight, or training of perceived or assumed behavior. This is a 5-member board elected and essentially volunteering to manage and operate the town for everyone. I leave an illustration during my days on the select board. One of our residents needed assistance. He was a person of color. To my knowledge, the number of people who befriended, assisted, and thought so highly of this individual ever treated him with any disrespect. Matter of fact, no one I knew referred to him as anything other than Mr. Jackson. I leave you with my tribute to a great man. Sincerely, Christine Drew.
I think that must have been placed in a letter, newspaper or something. Like that.
Yeah. Or maybe something she read.
And
It's the memorial for Mr. Jackson.
Yeah. Apple chat about that. Yep.
Would you like me to read it?
Sure.
A tribute to Alfred W. Jackson. Mr. Jackson was one of the finest gentlemen I have ever met. It was his character, intelligence, demeanor, and the ability to articulate so readily without rancor or embellishment. He was competent, compassionate, and giving. Mostly, he had an immense amount of living. Experiences that might have weakened anyone, he bore every experience and offered an example of continuing on with the utmost dignity and positivity. Adopted by his aunt from an orphanage in Boston after he and his siblings lost their mother, the aunt, a relative of the Turner family from Grafton, Vermont, spent summers here, and Alfred loved it. He said he learned so much on the farm and from the local community. He loved his home in Massachusetts, where he lived and schooled. He missed his siblings after the adoption and learned that his younger brother was lost at the age of 10. Wanderlust set in, and he asked to be signed into the Navy. He served our country for 14 years, starting just prior to the outset of World War II. The Vermont runs on naval ships in cold waters during the harshest of battles. He suffered injury. On a respite to the northern Mediterranean, orders came from another Jackson saying General Patton would be there. Alfred asked who the Jackson was. It was his brother, working directly for Patton. They arranged to meet after so many years and kept in touch thereafter, always keeping an eye on each other during the war. Alfred married a Southern girl after his discharge from the Navy, moved back to Lexington to live and work. They had one daughter who had childhood asthma. His wife was diagnosed with MS when his daughter was 4. Alfred cared for both, and although his wife was wheelchair bound, he rearranged the home to allow her to get around by lowering counters and providing access for her mobility. Alfred's wife lived a good number of years. After her passing, he was very close with his daughter. One afternoon, as they sat for lunch, his daughter had an asthma attack and passed. Alfred came back to Vermont, to Newfane, where his daughter owned a seasonal home. He decided to live here with a lifelong friend. Once again, he became caregiver as his friend grew ill and passed. Many of us in our small community were privileged to know Alfred. As he grew ill, there were many people reaching out and helping him in so many ways. Our local community hospital took great care of him at the end, with the utmost respect and dignity. He was so comfortable and so peaceful and fairly close to his Grafton home that he loved in the summers. Thank you, Alfred, for the privilege of knowing you and learning from you. I hope to carry some of the lessons forward. Alfred Jackson, Newfane. Alfred W. Jackson, formerly of Lexington, Mass., left us with the grace of God. December 28, 2012, at the age of 89 in Grace Cottage Hospital with devoted friend and caregiver Maxine Leducour and her husband Leo by his side. Sorry if I messed up your last name. Alfred was orphaned and blissfully adopted at a very young age. He served his nation proudly in World War II in the Navy, stationed abroad. He was the beloved husband of the late Ida Jackson, loving father of the late Marianne Jackson, devoted companion of the late Louise Forth, and proud brother of late George, Philip, Mary, Elfrida, and Edward. He leaves to mourn his passing his niece Loretta Jackson Baldwin, and an immeasurable number of nieces, nephews, and extended family, and adored friends who were ever vigilant of his needs, such as Christine Drew, Debbie Pearson, and Terrell Douglas. Alfred loved nature and caring for God's earthy gifts. His job as a supervisor and groundskeeper for Harvard/Radcliffe campus was a beloved and proud occupation. A private ceremony will be announced at a later time. He wished for his contributions to be made to the Home for Little Wanderers in Lexington and Boston, Massachusetts, and arrangements were under the care of White Funeral Home, chapel, and cremation service in Townsend. Thank you for that letter, Tris. Yes. And that tribute. Next, we have another letter to the Select Board dated June 7th, 2021. The West River Valley Mutual Aid Group does so many fine things that help the people. This is respectfully Mary Carson, Richard Westcott, Lorraine Westcott, James Russells, Thomas Axnora, said that wrong, Erica Walsh, Christine White, Cena, and George Friend.
No, that's something that okay.
The West River Valley Mutual Aid Group does so many fine things that help the people of Newfane as well as people around the West River Valley. They organize the Everyone Eats program that gives restaurant meals to people 2 nights per week. They have helped connect volunteers with neighbors who need help with groceries, shoveling, rides, and other things. They've created a Welcomes Family packet that they distributed to families with young children that have moved to town. Clearly, they are a group that can get things done on their own without government funding or support. They have demonstrated that they have the organizational capacity to put on a voluntary training that elected officials, town employees, and the public could attend if they so choose. So why are they asking the Select Board to do it? At the Select Board meeting on May 24th, the group was asked just that. Their response was that the Select Board has, quote unquote, the power in town. When asked what specific training the group was asking the Select Board to endorse, the group had no answer, but said there are lots of them out there and they'd find one for the town. When asked if the group was asking for funds for the training, the group said no. There are lots of trainings out there, including free ones, and that the Select Board could even ask their employee assistant program to recommend a training. Part of the request from the group is also for the town of Newfane to put a statement on their website and send out press releases that, quote unquote, proudly share the news of the town employees and officials undergoing anti-bias training, end quote. This is clearly an attempt by a small group of people to get the town government to do what it wants. You may remember that after some political graffiti was spray painted on Route 30 last summer, This group also asked the town to put out a statement on the town website and make press releases condemning the graffiti. This was a topic of some debate, which many townspeople weighed in on. Asking the town government to say what your group wants is political action, and asking the town to implement a politically charged training for employees and officials is too. It was a political action about the graffiti, and it is a political action about this. If this well-organized group wants to offer training to the public, they have every right to do so, and they have the organizational prowess to make it happen, particularly since they have frequently stated that these trainings exist for free online. The town should dismiss this request outright. If the town decides to look at it further, this is the sort of thing that should be discussed during town meetings so that all people have the opportunity to weigh in, not just those who happen to read about it on Front Porch Forum. As we know from the good work of the Planning Commission, 30% of the town doesn't have broadband, and according to Front Porch Forum, there are 903 people on the Front Porch Forum, which covers Newfane, Townsend, Brookline, and Athens. There are 100 signatories to the WRBMA letter, and we don't know how many of them are Newfane residents. Further, if the town does decide to proceed with a diversity training, we request that a diverse group of town residents works together to identify an appropriate training that would help people come together and better understand their neighbors with respect and compassion. To that end, the Newfane Republican Committee has reached out to the Newfane Democratic Committee to work together to create a Braver Angels chapter in the town. This is a nationwide, nonpartisan group dedicated to helping people who have conversations with each other to understand their neighbors' political viewpoints, not to change them. We are awaiting a response from the Democratic Committee to see if they would like to work together on this, and we plan to start a chapter. At the May 24th Select Board meeting, some of the WRBMA speakers said that they heard ideas that they were problematic, quote unquote, and that people who disagreed with them need to be, quote unquote, educated. This language demonstrates condescension and bias and highlights the concerns many people have about just what sort of training the WRBMA group is advocating for the town government to select. Do they want to tell people in the town government how wrong their ideas are, or do they want to celebrate the diversity of opinions that exist in our community? Respectfully, Mary Carson, Richard Westcott, Lorraine Westcott, James Russell, Thomas Exnora, Erica Walsh, Christine White, Tina Friend, and George Friend. Thank you for your letter.
Yes, thank you.
The next we have a letter from Mario de Figny Giroux. Good afternoon, Ms. Powling. Would you please be able to transmit the attached letter to Select Board Chair Angela Sanborn? I thank you for your assistance. Dated May 17th, Road Safety Audit, Vermont 30, Newfane. Dear Ms. Sanborn, this letter is in response to your May 3rd, 2021 letter to Mark Pickering concerning the implementation of some of the recommendations resulting from the road safety audit that was conducted on Vermont Route 30 last fall. A speed limit sign will be added as per the recommendation of the road safety audit report on the left-hand side of Vermont 30 at mile point 3,296. Sorry, no, 3.296, sorry. Looked like a comma. A traffic investigator will evaluate the need for hidden drive signs for the area of 631 through 638 Vermont Route 30. The traffic investigator will further identify locations for 2 pedestrian signs with a supplemental distance plaque next XXX feet to indicate a zone of pedestrian activity. Per your request, the traffic investigator will identify proposed locations for the installation of speed feedback signs by the town. This information will be transmitted to the town. The town will then be required to apply for a permit from V-Trans Permitting Services Unit in order to be able to install the signs. Section 8 of Guidelines on the Use of Radar Speed Feedback Signs explains these requirements. While dynamic striping was discussed during the road safety audit, it was not included in the final set of recommendations due to the findings from our research section that indicated that dynamic striping appeared to be marginally effective in reducing speeds. Dynamic striping is not something that V-Trans will implement. Concerning the request for a no passing zone, this is a matter that has to be determined by the Vermont Traffic Committee. To initiate this process, the town will need to write a letter to Ian DeGudis, Traffic Committee Coordinator, Vermont Agency of Transportation Operations and Safety Bureau in Berlin, Vermont. You will need to include a description of the issues and the limits of the no passing zone that you are requesting. Due to the pandemic, you can submit your letter via email. Please do not hesitate to contact me at phone number, email if you have any questions. Sincerely, Mario Dufigny-Giroux. Would I be able to entertain a recommendation that we give this to Jay to look into and we get back to Mario via Jay, and I will call
We were
Jay.
talking about adding signs. That's what I got out of it.
But if it's okay with the board, I would be more than happy to call him tomorrow and discuss this letter with him. Perfect. Excellent. And last but not least, we have one more letter from the Vermont Land Trust. May 14th, 2021, acquisition of development rights, Green Mountain Conservancy. Dear members of the Newfane Select Board, Green Mountain Conservancy, Inc. notified you October 2019 by letter that they were applying for a grant from the Vermont Housing Conservation Board, VHCB, to acquire additional land in Brookline and Newfane to add to the Deer Run Nature Preserve. VHCB subsequently approved this application in 2020. Once Green Mountain Conservancy, Inc. purchases the land, Vermont Land Trust and VHCB will acquire the development rights. This letter is to notify you per Title 10 VSA Section 6302, parentheses D, that the Vermont Land Trust will be closing on the, quote, grant of development rights, conservation restrictions, and public access easement, end quote, called the grant, on 627 acres of land located in Brookline and Newfane, which will be co-held by the Vermont Land Trust, Inc. and Vermont Housing and Conservation Board. Of the 627 acres to be conserved, 387 acres are in Brookline and 240 acres are in Newfane. A copy of the grant is available upon request and will be sent to the Dummerston and Brookline town clerks for recording immediately following closing. For more information about this transaction, please contact Jennifer Garrett. Sincerely, Jennifer Garrett. I do believe she meant to write a copy of the grant is available to Newfane and Brookline. So would you be able to reach out to her at some point to get a copy of that? Well, thank you so much. And that concludes our correspondence. I would like to thank everybody for coming tonight, and I appreciate everybody's points of view and sharing all that they shared. It was a great meeting, and I look forward to discussing it in the future. And I once again appreciate each and every one of you for being here tonight. And we're going to head into pay orders.